live. We're preparing to stream. And as we're going live, I'm just gonna go on Facebook on my son's device so I can see it while we're here, and
Yeah.
just stay right here. Okay. Hey, welcome. I see us on YouTube. Okay. So I'm gonna go to Facebook quick.
That's a link for YouTube.
I need to get off this one. I'm on twice. I need to get off.
Okay, yeah. Just leave it for now, but I see us we're on the Facebook Live, so we're welcoming everyone. Let me take the Facebook Live, and as we're doing that, I will take this and let's share. Ahmad, open the door for
Emma,
okay, hold on. Miss Jennifer is outside.
want me to open the door?
Yeah, hold on.
You want me to?
Just go outside and get the stuff from her. Hold on. Hold on, ladies. I'm gonna copy the streaming on YouTube and let me put it on Facebook right now, okay? So that they see we're on Facebook Live. Sexual assault. And let me just post that on the wall. Hold on, ladies. Say something. Post an event. And I'm gonna put watch us live now.
Is anybody
Live.
on yet watching? Do you know?
Well, we don't know because it's on the event. They just, whoever's on the event page, but I'm gonna put it on the event page and watch us live on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm gonna also share it in the news feed. Watch us live. Us live now. And I am going to also go post it on my wall. I'm gonna post it on my wall. And I'm gonna tag you all. Okay? Yes, and I'm gonna tag you ladies. Charlinda. Linda. Corto. And Jeff. Okay. Okay. So I just posted that on my wall to watch us live. People can watch us live on YouTube right now.
You look nice, Dr. Corto.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say this thing.
Yes.
I like your necklace.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So,
Beautiful.
Thank you.
so let me just bring up some windows, ladies. But since we're all here and we're all live, I want to welcome everyone. Hi. I know we have some people. I'm going to keep Facebook up so we can see some people while we're here on Facebook. And I'm going to start. I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, everyone. Everyone watching on Facebook, everyone watching on YouTube. Charlinda is back. Let's get Charlinda back. We just had one of our panelists join us back. We're live on Zoom, everyone, so we welcome you. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me make her a co-host. And let me make Charlinda a co-host. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on, ladies. So hi, do we have everyone on? We welcome everyone. Hi. So hi, everyone. Tonight is a special night. Tonight is April 1st, 2021. We know that we are all going through our lockdowns and quarantines and pandemics, but we don't want anyone to forget the importance of advocacy, and not, even though we're going through these trying times, we don't want people to forget all the important things that we advocate for in our community. So I want to welcome everyone tonight on Facebook, everyone watching us on YouTube, everyone joining us, all our panelists on Zoom. I will introduce myself. My name is Zainabu Sise Harold. I am an advanced practice nurse educator. I'm also the founder of the Sexual Assault Awareness Campaign that was started for Sierra Leone, but we do it for all women, all advocates. We are joined by some fabulous women here tonight because today is April 1st. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and many of you may not know that that month exists every April. So in April, we recognize sexual assault awareness. And you say, what is that? So there are different categories of sexual assault awareness. Some of it may be rape. Some of it may be the topic that we're talking about tonight. And the topic we're talking about tonight is called, the acronym for it is FGM, FGC, female genital mutilation. We also call it female genital cutting. And you're wondering, why are we talking about that tonight? And why are we talking about that with all these lovely women on here who will introduce themselves also? And we're talking about that because that is an issue that is affecting young women. And not only young women all over the world. But you're saying, you know, you guys are all in the United States. Why are we talking about this tonight? Because it affects the young women, really all women, where we're from also. And we're all located in the United States. We all are, you know, from different various countries and immigrants or descendants of, you know, immigrants. But this is all prevalent. This issue that we're going to talk about tonight also happens in all of our communities, and it also happens here in the United States. And you say in the United States, yes, in the United States, and we're going to give you guys some numbers. We're going to have like a nice Zoom round table discussion, even though it's a square table tonight. And we're going to talk about why should we talk about this and why is it important. So we have some advocates on the phone with us. We have on live with us. We have some experts. We're asking you all out there on Zoom and Facebook to please share. If this is a sensitive topic, and so it's culturally sensitive, so we're being respectful to people's culture and communities. But this is something that we are empowering young women to talk about. And so tonight, I just want to introduce myself, and I want all my panelists to introduce themselves. And so the next panelist we ask to introduce themselves is Dr. Corto Scott. Dr. Corto Scott, introduce yourself to everyone for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Corto Scott. I'm a professor from Lehman College, nursing. I'm also from Liberia, West Africa, where female genital cutting is prevalent.
Yes. And the next panelist that we have is someone, Ms. Jaffa, if you can introduce yourself to everyone for us.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Zania Jaffa. I am from Sierra Leone, of Lebanese Sierra Leonean descent. Currently living in Virginia, but grew up since I was 10 years old in New York City when we migrated from Sierra Leone to New York. I am an advocate. I'm a lay person. I'm not a nurse, and I haven't done any research on the topic per se, but I am familiar with it on a personal level with family and friends from Sierra Leone.
And we appreciate your voice, and we thank you for joining us. And we would love our next advocate to speak. If Charlinda, could you please speak?
She's muted.
And Charlinda.
Charlinda Bennett Jeromo. I am a lay person as well. I've worked in social services and dealt with this issue between New York, Georgia, and Florida, and I'm looking forward to discussing it further with you ladies today.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, and one of my favorites here is representing media. Veena, if you can please introduce yourself to everyone for us.
Hi, friends. My name is Vinamrata Chaturvedi. I recently graduated from New York University's Business and Economic Reporting program. I'm a financial journalist, but before that, I would say I'm someone who advocates gender equality. In India, I had broken a gang rape story that shook the nation that time. That was 2016. And after that, when I was working in Germany, I was part of Women in Asia project, where I started, working on different issues. For example, things like female feticide, domestic violence, and then I got to know about FGM, and that story that really, blew my mind. So that's why, I want to be part of this discussion because I want to share my experience. So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And so as you all see that you're looking at, we're all different age ranges, we're all from different national backgrounds, but this is something that impacts all of our communities. And as advocates and also as women, it's important for us to be able to empower women to talk about these topics. And you may think that this is something that doesn't hit home, but this is a topic that really has hit home for many of us in our work, in our professional lives, and also in our personal lives. And so tonight we're just going to have like a real easy discussion where we give you guys some information on the topic, but also let's discuss how we've been dealing with it in our communities, in our families, what has encouraged us to get to this point where we're able to talk about something that's so sensitive and private, to be able to talk about it publicly like that. Like this tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off and just introduce the topic to the public for many of you who don't know what it is. So FGM, also known as FGC, is internationally recognized as a gross violation of human rights. It's a form of violence against women and girls. It's also a manifestation of gender inequality. However, there's a lack of general awareness concerning the extent to which FGM and FGC is truly a global issue and needs a global response. Also, for many of us, and as far as my own family, when they say an act of violence, we are going to talk about how in our cultures, it's not considered violence. This has been part of many of our cultural practices, whether it's, helping a woman, a young girl get to womanhood, or if they do it for practice for marriage, or it's for religion, but this is a practice that affects all communities. There's reports on FGM and FGC that shines spotlights on the presence of it. It happens in over 90 countries around the world. And imagine there's 195 countries in the world, and it happens in almost half of them. What also we can highlight on is the need to act to how can we educate people. And there are many people who believe in that we need to end FGM and FGC without delay. So we plead to not only survivors. We don't want to also call them victims. We want to call them survivors. We want to plead to the people in media. That's why we have someone from media represented here. We want to plead to the people. That's why we have advocates on here. The people in healthcare, whether you're a nurse or physician assistant or a nurse practitioner or a nurse screener, maybe we have people who work with social services on here, people who work in the community on here. For those people who deal with maybe young girls in school and you don't know why they're dealing with the challenges and issues that they do have, these are some of the things that may be impacting their family and their communities. We also want you to know that FGM, FGC is acknowledged globally. And also, let me give you some figures according to UNICEF. As of 2020, it affects at least 200 million women and girls in 31 countries worldwide. The figure, even though it's from a large scale representative, it consists of 27 countries from the African continent also, as well as Iraq, Yemen, the Maldives, Indonesia. So, you know, we also talk about there are numerous countries nationwide that have data on FGM and FGC, but it's not prevalent, the information. You know, we also talk about there's numerous countries in Africa, this happens, Asia, it happens, Middle East, Latin America, Europe, and North America. Among indigenous and diasporan communities, there are 32 countries where it shows that there's data that's there, but it's not available. And there's 60 other countries where they practice FGM and FGC, but it hasn't been documented. And so we're talking about, why are we talking about this and how does it affect us, especially we who have been native New Yorkers or maybe, you know, former New Yorkers, but why talk about this and how does it affect us living here in the United States and in New York? So let me tell you about who's at risk and when. It is estimated that 7,500 girls and women that live in New York State are at risk for FGM and FGC. And FGM, FGC, we will have our next speaker. She will discuss and tell you exactly what it is and what the practice is. But understand it's a form of cutting and circumcision of your private area in a woman. And this happens to girls who live in the state of New York. It happens to them either overseas, or it happens to them actually in our state and in our city. Girls living in communities such as the Bronx, Harlem, Brooklyn, places in upstate New York and Long Island, Westchester County. We have advocates who are in different aspects of legislation here in our state, who are advocates from city council, state assembly, and people who are attorneys who are advocates for this. We also want to talk about how communities and immigrants that practice female genital cutting are often more from African countries that we notice. Some are from Middle Eastern and Asian countries. Let me tell you some of the times that this happens also. Everyone knows right now, this is Easter break, Holy Week. You wouldn't believe, and to let the public know that it's an especially risky time during school vacations for girls to have this practice happen. We call it vacation cutting. Girls may go on winter break, spring break, Thanksgiving break, and have this practice happen to them and come back. When families send their girls out of state or to another country for circumcision, the practice, like I told you, is called vacation cutting. This practice has become illegal in the United States since 2013, and it's also illegal in New York, but New York is the most prevalent state where it happens, okay? It's a crime to send or attempt to send a female from the United States younger than 18 years old to go have this practice happen in another country. Most girls are circumcised and between the ages of 5 years old and 8 years old, but it can happen at any time. And I will share a story that, you know, I shared with the group that this happened to my sister-in-law, and she was age 30 and a mother of 2. And she happened to die a week later from the practice because she had sickle cell and she bled out. So this can happen to any woman at any age. Some females have this happen to them when they're babies. And it can be done also in adolescence or just before marriage, and also in pregnancy too. Thousands of females in New York State are at risk. Female circumcision is likely to cause a lifelong physical and psychological damage. And with that, I want to introduce Dr. Corto Scott, who will now discuss and do a short slide for all of you to see about FGC, FGM. Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Tanvi. as Sandy has said to you, that this is a very difficult subject matter to talk about. And of course, she reminded you that it is prevalent in Africa. Therefore, my focus is on Africa. Africa has some of the highest number of, like over 90%, some countries, both in the eastern as well as the western part where I am from. Therefore, I'm going to give you an overview of what this female genitalia cutting is. And the reason why I'm focusing on Africa is because I am doing a study. The study is still open. I would like for people who want to talk to me, because we need to educate the public, especially healthcare. And so the information I'm giving you tonight is the literature review of the study that I'm doing. And these studies, as you will see, there were not many studies, but most of these studies, all the studies I'm looking at, they were done in North America, because I'm focused on North America, and which means Canada and the United States, and African immigrant from south of the Sahara. So without taking too much time, I just wanted to give you an overview. This, I prefer to call it female genitalia cutting, because when I was reading the studies, the women were very angry when they referred to it as mutilation, circumcision. And so I prefer to use cutting. So all through my study, I will use family genitalia cutting. The study is in progress, as I said. Usually, female genitalia cutting happens when the girls are between 5 to 6 years old. And I really want you to think about that. The reason why I want you to think about that is because when they are 5 to 6 years old, they have no control. It is usually encouraged by grandmothers, aunts, and elder women in the village or in the society. And these women are very strong. Strong, and they usually are in charge. Therefore, these girls have no way of saying no. And the reason why I'm saying that, because when they grow up and they move to America, healthcare workers started blaming them and making them to feel ashamed that they had undergone female genitalia cutting. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to share with you some of the, no, this is not it. I'd like to share with you some of what it really is. Female genitalia cutting is it's really a procedure, it's a cultural norm done for no specific scientific, medical reason. And there are 4 different types of that. Okay, let me share. I just want to share with you. There are 4 different types. Oh my God. Okay, there are 4 different types. And I'm going to show you also pictures. I want to warn you. I want to show you pictures so you can really understand what goes on with these little girls. Type 1, it usually has to do with the removal of the clitoris of the woman. This is the very sensitive part of the woman. Type 2, they are going to actually total removal of the inner fold and the outer fold that surrounds the clitoris. And type 3 is really what they call it infabulation. This is really narrowing of the birth canal and then sewing it up. And type 4 is really the harmful one, which it can be anything from picking, piercing, incising, scripting, or burning. And this is what it actually looks like. I want to warn you. So you can see that type 1 here, you can see the upper left, you can see where they just remove a small part, a part of the clitoris. They may remove or they may remove just a piece of it. It depends on who does the procedure. The next one, in the upper right, you can see that they actually remove, they may take away a larger piece, a part of the woman. Type 3, which is the most dangerous one, you can see that they actually sew. I'm using the word sew, I should say suture, because they really stitch the woman up, and they may stitch all the opening of the woman, of the birth canal. They may just sew it up. And then type 4, which is the harmful part, you can see that it affects a lot of the genitalia area. And this is where they may cut, burn, script, do anything, but it's going to be a disfigurement of the woman's genitalia area. Okay. And then, and so that's how it is done. It is done between the ages of 5 and 6 when they have no control. So going forward, this, based on the studies that were done here in the United States, healthcare workers, and when I say healthcare workers, it could be doctors, nurses, everybody. When these women went to have babies, there were women having the babies, and they found out that the healthcare providers made them feel shameful, made them feel like they were from a society that did not respect women. They really had a total disregard for this culture norm, and it made the women feel very ashamed. And because of that, some of the women didn't used to go to the hospital. They wouldn't like to go because female genitalia cutting can lead to renal complications with the genitalia area. And then, so especially they felt that nurses made them feel bad. They were like calling people to look at the genitalia while they were having the babies. Oh, she has no clitoris. So it was very shameful. So when they asked the women about how they felt about female genitalia cutting, when they were back in their countries, when they were back home, it is a prestigious thing for them to go through this, because this is the way to protect the woman to get married. For an example, if you're living in a village and your mother didn't have you go through female genitalia cutting, you may not get married. So it is considered a prestigious thing among them. Only to come to America or North America and to feel marginalized. Therefore, and the women describe themselves as feeling pure. Why North caregivers in North America told them they had gone through mutilation, and this angered them. This terminology really angered them. So, not to get too deep into it, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what it is. It is a way for you to be aware that you want to understand where the women coming from and understand their culture, because when it happened to them, they were just little girls, and now as they were just little girls, and they were little girls, beautiful from all walks of life. They didn't know this was happening to them. So that's my very brief overview of what I wanted to talk about. Okay. And now we're going to go to our next speaker, right?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for that. And it's sometimes these are the topics that we talk about, but to visualize it, this is I think that is the first time publicly I've ever seen that discussed for me. I participate in presentations. There are a lot of private talks by providers, but I think, even for that to understand, it gives me even chills, thinking about it now, that we are at a point where we can discuss this publicly. And it's important. For me, it makes me feel like it's time. And for all the girls out there who I encounter, whether from my school nursing days to the girls in our various communities, to the young girls that I meet all over New York, the different various young immigrant girls, it's time. These platforms like Zoom and YouTube and Facebook make access to education and information even easier now for us to understand that we can communicate and discuss about things like this. And I really thank you for sharing that presentation. We would love now, like you said, to hear from Charlinda, who, she's going to talk about working in that sector, dealing with these young girls and the women and the families who are affected by this. And thank you.
Hello again, everyone. I would just really like to open up the floor, start by opening up the floor for everyone to join in this dialogue and share our experience in this square table and in this discussion to truly have a open floor. So let's start here. I've been working in social services for over 13 years. And at the beginning of this journey that I truly love, I encountered young ladies that had experienced this at a very traumatic time. And I use the word traumatic not loosely, because as we dive into the psyche of this, we really, as clinicians, have to work with these individuals where they are, but using trauma-informed care and services and being careful not to re-traumatize, as Dr. Couto was speaking of, and be mindful of our filters as we deal with these young ladies, because they've gone through so much already. The young people that Dr. Couto spoke of, they experienced a lot of this at the age between 5 and 6, as she said. There's some that experience as young as 8 months, others as old as 32, and all for various reasons. What I found in my studies is that a lot of these young people, it's starting to be younger as people begin to be more aware and resist the cutting, that it's harder to restrain them. And so that's why it's being done at a younger age, right? Because we have these social norms where in that culture, it sees a need to be done. But I want you for a moment to step into the lens that when I first saw it, here was a young woman from Guinea, West Africa, who at the age of 12, between 12 and 13, was to marry an older gentleman, which is a norm, right? But at that time, she had to undergo the cut, as some of us refer to. And so she had the cut performed and a few forcefully. There was no resistance. I mean, there was no way to resist. She was drugged into by the elders, aunts, auntie, elder of community, or whomever else. This procedure was performed with dull tools, as she described. no local anesthetics. And imagine the trauma of it all, the fear, the angst. So as you have these young women going through this, and she then was forced to marry, tried to run away, couldn't. The police held her, and then she was punished for running away. And then to proceed with the natural stages of what happens after you marry, right? And then childbirth, all within a year span. What does that do to the most central, most fundamental relationship of a young person, which is family? It builds a sense of betrayal. And so what we find a lot with this, and not all, and I want that to be understood also, that not everyone comes out with a psychosis, right? Because for many, they may walk into it willingly, right? As you said, Zanable, with your cousin, she walked into it. Many walk into it with some sort of will, but the after effects. A lot of times, these women face post-traumatic stress disorder. They qualify for post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders, also in the midst of them silencing, because it's a taboo that you don't speak of, whether you're a part of the culture or you're not. Some find ways to self-medicate, to numb the hurt. And it has been, there's some studies still going on where they're connecting it to postpartum, because there's so much pain during the birth process, and then rehealing that needs to take place, especially with stages 3 and 4, as Dr. Cotto explained. So as we go into this discussion, I would just ask us as clinicians, and those that aren't clinicians that work with these individuals that come to pass with these young sisters of various ages, to come into it with an open mind and an open heart, and figure out a way for us to end this. I'd like to open up the floor to anyone else.
Yeah, so let's, leading to what you said, it's, when I think about it, it's, the people who walk into it willingly. Let's talk about stigma. Ms. Jaffa, will open the floor with that. Is some of the things that you hear and taboo, or what they tell you to not talk about. I mean, Ms. Jaffa, maybe you can share with the audience some of the things that, were told to us growing up in our communities, or why, they said we were supposed to do it, or supposed to have it, or supposed to participate in the practice. And I guess I'll let Ms. Jaffa take the floor.
She's muted.
She's muted. Ms. Jaffa?
Yes, okay, sorry, I was muted. Okay.
No worries.
There is a lot of stigma that goes along with FG. I'm now going to do as Dr. Porto is doing. I'm going to use the cutting instead of mutilation. So thank you for that, because that's what it is. They are being cut. There was a lot of stigma. Growing up in Sierra Leone, it was a wonderful thing. Seeing the girls going to Bondo, it's a big deal. It's a wonderful thing. It's a rite of passage. And they're learning a lot. They're being with women and girls and learning how to be a good wife, how to cook, a lot of different things. It's all secret. Either you're in or you're out. So if you're not going into Bondo, no one is going to talk to you about what goes on in there. Unless you're very close to a family member that's gone, then they may share secretly with you, but you cannot disclose that or talk to anyone that hasn't gone. But there's pride into that. There is womanhood, camaraderie, lifetime friendships that they get. So there's a lot of good into that. And like I say, I'm an advocate. I'm not against culture. I'm not against Bondo. What I'm against is cutting. You can continue with the culture. The rite of passage is all over the world, not just in Sierra Leone. All countries, all nations have their own rite of passage that they give to their young boys and young girls. But you don't have to cut them. So that's a totally different thing. You can do that. But if you don't get cut, you have that stigma in Sierra Leone. Say, oh, you're never going to get married, as Dr. Carter has even mentioned that. No man is going to want you. I mean, they even have names for you. They call you like broka, meaning uncut person. Nobody wants to befriend you. You're not trusted. You're not one of us anymore. You're now an outsider. So so you have all of that. So because of that, you want to go through the rites. You want to get cut. Your mother did, your auntie did, your grandma did, and you should, and it just continues without question. But what happens is now there's migration. And these women that have gone through that are now living abroad in New York and all over the world, in Germany, Europe, all over the world. And now they're thinking, because of the knowledge that they're getting, the information now that they're getting with this, and saying, hey, we have a mind, we can question this. Why did we get cut? Is it because we come from these male patriarchal societies? Why they're thinking in their mind that maybe this is to keep you at home? Whatever the reasons are, you don't have to go along with that. So now they're questioning it, living abroad. They don't want to have their children go through that. But then again, what follows? The stigma follows. Because the majority of these women, they continue living in closed society, especially in New York. You're in an immigrant society, you're living there, and most of the time, you're not even allowed to have friends that are not in your closed community. So there you go again, even though in your mind, the back of your mind, you really don't want that for your girls, you may not have a choice. So you have the vacation cutting. You take them away, or you have it done secretly in New York. It's being done. So there's a lot of things that goes along with that, because they say, oh, if you don't get it done, then she's going to be a loose girl. You're going to let man, want a lot of men. Right. All these names and stigmas that they put in these young girls' heads. So, but what happens now when they come back and being cut as a young girl living in the States or living in a first world country, and you go to school, you're feeling different now. Now you're not the same. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of depression that's going on with these young girls, because they're internalizing this. They can't discuss it with their friends and teachers in school. They're not proud of it anymore. You come out of your apartment, you're not proud of it. So you're torn, and then you may be in pain. And then a lot of times these women also, they're not even allowed to go see a doctor. I know a young lady when I was in high school many years ago from Sudan. She was one of my best friends, and she had gone through, and we discussed everything. She was really in pain, feeling very sick, and her family would not allow her to go see a GYN doctor, afraid that they would see the condition of what has happened to her because of the cutting. They ended up sending her back to their country. So putting her at risk, her life at risk, instead of protecting their daughter. So the culture follows the people. The stigma follows people. So I think it's really time. I'm glad that we're having something like this. I really credit Zion, and I appreciate. She pushed me to do this. Believe me, I didn't. I wanted to step back. But I'm glad, and I thank her for that. She pushed me to the limit, because this has to be talked about. People have to be educated, and it's time to stop the cutting. And I think the more people are aware, the more people get comfortable and seeing the pictures and talking about it, then women will understand that we're empowered. we're not living in a small village somewhere in Africa or wherever. You're in a big first world country and you have rights. And you don't have to let your girls get cut. So that's my take on that.
Thank you, man, so much for that. And it makes me a little bit emotional because I feel like, we're talking about these things, and as we're migrating from our respective countries, whether it's India, Sierra Leone, Liberia, parts of Africa, even the South, even being from the South still feels like you still feel like, part of another world because of our practices, our African culture that we keep. The thing is, people don't want to lose their culture. That's such a big thing. People don't want to lose their culture and traditions. And Charlene and I, we were talking about this the other day, growing up, being, descendants from Africa and descendants of immigrants and living in America and acclimated to America. But how do we still keep our culture and traditions? And when you say the word bondo to me, it's like I grew up with that word in my household. In Sierra Leone, that's where you go. It's a society. We send the girls. So even me, I feel even in my age of where I'm at, I'm still like, well, dang, I'm not African enough. I didn't go to Bondo. You understand? And then the thing is, it's like, but Zine, I want all of the culture, but I don't want to cut it. And I want the same thing for my daughter. I want all of the culture, but I sure enough don't want that cutting. And so the thing is, it's like, can we find ways that we can still maintain these practices of culture, sustaining our culture, tradition, pride without that? My mom is here, talking, and it's touchy for us because, I will say, to my sister-in-law, her name was Ramatu Bangura. She died at 30 years old. And we're talking about it right now during this live because she was teased by her friends. So Ramatu decided to go to Bondo. I met this girl when she was a very young child, and she had sickle cell living in Africa, in Sierra Leone. That's a hard fight to keep her alive, constantly hospitalized, medications, all these things. We fought to get her up to age 30 and have 2 children. Just because her friends teased her, she decided to go to Bondo because they kept teasing her because she did not go. She went. They kept it a secret from all of our family. And next minute, I see my mother-in-law coming in my home, bawling because her daughter died. And I said, what happened? She went to society. I said, what? And she died because it happened to her and she bled for a week. So imagine that. And imagine even on the other end, the woman the seways, that's what we call them, doing the cutting. Imagine you're doing this practice and then you have girls die from it. Imagine that guilt. So when you hear about it, it's just like, I get a knot in my stomach. I get chills down my legs because it's like you're torn, and there are people out there who do advocate for it. But, the thing is are we advocating for the actual cutting or we're advocating for culture? Because I think we're all advocates for culture also. But how can we just make sure that girls don't have to endure this just to keep the culture, And I think it really happens through education and what we're doing. And so let's talk about, I thank all of you all for talking about that. We're going to talk to our next speaker now, who represents a larger community. And this is why we're here on live on social media. Vina, please introduce yourself and talk about your work with this initiative.
Yeah. Thanks, Zed. So as I told you, I am Vinamrata and I'm a financial journalist. But before that, actually, I had worked, on topics like gender equality, women empowerment, and, things like that. Before coming to New York, I was in Germany. I was working for Deutsche Welle for a project called Women in Asia. that time actually I got to know about the depth of the problem related with FGM. Because when I was in India, when I was little, I had heard the term, but I had no idea about, the depth of the problem, and probably, because when you are growing, you see so many stuff related with patriarchy that, it kind of become, like a new, it's a normal thing for you, if you think about it, gender inequality, molestation. I grew up watching all these things, so I'm not surprised that, it's still, so prominent in countries like India. So when I was in Germany, when I started working for my project, then I found FGM survivor. Let me share my screen. I can share the articles with you. Oh. Okay, so I think there is a kind of problem. So yeah, I can share my views. So her name is Mehera Tahir. She lives in Chicago, and she advocates anti-FGM. But there was a time when she was little. She was born and raised in the US, but her parents were quite sure about FGM. So she was again, victim of vacation cutting. They took her, back to India. They performed FGM, and she was so little that she had no idea about, okay, so what happened to me, exactly. And then for her, it was like a festival because, they serve food and everything after the procedure. She got to know about this thing, when she was in high school. Oh, so this thing happened to me as well. So this was her story, and she was pretty shocked. Then she started, Googling about these things. She did some research, and then she was like, oh gosh, I'm a victim. So that was the turning point. And then she started her own campaign, and she started, talking about these things. And she told me that, this thing is so common that, you can't say no to it. Otherwise, you will be like outcasted. So that was that thing, blew my mind. And that story, led to, some other stories. And last year, when I was here in New York, I'm still in New York, I wanted to work on FGM and, the business model of FGM. And then I found that, the weak law and the advocacy for medicalizing FGM is something else. So there are some people who are trying to bring the positive side of FGM, and they're totally fine with it, and they will give you some kind of logical reasons, which is, it was a quite surprise for me. So when I started working last year, and when I met Zen, then I found, the story behind, vacation cutting, and how some people, for example, Fumbai, Miss Fumbai, she is advocating FGM, and she says that, it's quite common thing. Same thing is performed on baby boy. So why not, how can we behind? I mean, so she's like that. She is comparing, a practice which is violent to some kind of, like a common practice thing, a medical practice thing, which is, I'm shocked, why she said that, but I think that's normal, I guess, now for people who are advocating FGM. And then she compared this thing with labioplasty. She said, if white women can, opt for labioplasty or anything related with their vaginal plastic surgery, then why can't we promote FGM? What's wrong in that? And then I reached out to a plastic surgeon, and then he was also shocked because because he told me that, I think there is something which is by consent, and there is one thing which is done upon you like forcefully. So there is a difference. You can't compare FGM with plastic surgery, and you can't medicalize it. So this is something which is we all should need to know. And there is no health benefit of FGM, first of all. So there is no need to advocate or perform this thing. Also, when I started talking with Mumbai, then I found that this is like an attack on Black people or Islamic people. and which was quite surprised to me, because why are we using political card? Why are we saying this is a issue of Muslims or Islamic versus other religion, or black versus white? No, it's not about that. There are some white women in Africa, who are, victims, who are victims right now. Same with Indonesia. So how can you say this is an issue of black versus white versus brown? I don't think, we should, I think, talk about women first. Let's not play the political card. And women are not made, or they are not made to become, like flag bearers of patriarchy. No, there are some other important things to do. So if you are, using, okay, so, we should medicalize it. We should use sterilized, plastic, surgery instruments, or we should do like this, do like that. No, I think FGM should be banned. It should be condemned, and there shouldn't be any reason to, perform this practice. The good thing is US government is trying to, do something related with law. So yeah, government is trying a bit. Government can only tighten the law. That's something which is in, in its hand. But I would say we need to, attack, the cultural practice first. We need to educate people first that, there shouldn't be any reason. You shouldn't use any kind of, sterilized instrument to perform this thing. So yeah, that's my take. I think, the neo generation, who like to, be part of their culture, and I don't know why they just live in that kind of guilt. I'm not good enough because I'm not performing this thing. We need to come out of this guilt, and let's not play political card and just think about women first.
I also like to add to that. Let me just add to that, because even though some people are saying that it's a culture and they want to do it in a hospital, of course it is banned in the United States against the law, also banned in 23 states, but also through the literature, some of the girls, some of the women that had it when they were very young, they are going to have reconstructive surgery. And because they want to have reconstructive surgery, because when it happened to them, they were little, they didn't know. But now they understand and they want to live a full life. So another thing is, it is not easy to talk about this, because even in my own family, why am I speaking out about it? It's like, you are educated, so why are you speaking out about it? But that's exactly the point. Because we need, it's good to have this difficult dialogue so that they can understand other people's culture and not look at them as, demoralize them, because they demoralized enough when they didn't have it when they were in their culture, during their culture bringing up. So it's a good thing that we can talk about it, and that's the only way people will learn to understand this. But it is a cultural norm, and I agree. I am for getting rid of it as well. So,
and you guys, everybody, we have people on. People are watching us live. Somebody came to make a donation tonight. Really? Thank you to Jennifer Harris Henry, watching us live now on YouTube, outside in the street in her car. We have some people. I just want, I want to thank all of you for speaking. I just want to share some stuff, some of the people that we have us watching us live now. We have a young lady out of the United Kingdom. Her name is Alimatu Dimonekin. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, sis. But she is a big advocate. She's here tonight. She's live. She actually wanted to join us in the chat as one of our viewers, just to talk, to just share about her being an advocate. Also, she's the founder of her organization. It's called Founder of A Girl at Time, www.agirlattime.org. She's also going to discuss about the use of the language and how to best help women and girls by linking other services to the discussions, and less about the pain that the women and girls face. and access to services, especially particularly medical services. And she shared some slides and stuff. So she's in our room with us. I'm going to let her in. We're going to welcome one of our live guests. Thank you so much for joining us, Alimatu. Hey. And so we have Alimatu who's joining us in, and she's midnight her time. Alimatu, hi, welcome. We welcome you to our discussion. Welcome you, and just, tell us who you are. Tell us about some of the facts that you know and some of the things you can update the viewers on. Thank you for joining us.
Just so I can be very polite, I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm already in bed, but I couldn't resist watching you all. So to be polite and be very British, I'm going to turn my camera off.
No worries.
Welcome. Okay. Well, it's been a very, so I'm Alim. Of course. I'm Alimatu Dimonikeni. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
There's a bit of an echo.
Yes, we can.
Oh, I think the echo is because I'm also on YouTube. Just hold on a minute.
Just mute your YouTube.
The YouTube of. That's it. Thank you so much. Well, yes, my name is Alimatu Dimonikeni, and of course, I'm from Sierra Leone. But I've been a campaigner against female genital mutilation in the US, you call it cutting, for over 30 years now. And myself and several other activists in the United Kingdom have actually been spearheading the campaign and getting the language as survivors, being part of the change that we're all seeing. And just several years ago, happened to work with the FBI and other agencies in the US in how we bring about the conversation. Because I think, like some of you have already said, there's an active participation of some of our community members to actually keep this practice going. Amen. We all know FGM predates Islam, it predates Christianity, but we're now looking at the severity of what this practice has done to many, many girls. We know just in the New York, Philadelphia, Maryland area, close to 500,000 women and girls have already been cut by the PBC data that was done several years ago. So that's a lot of girls. Globally, we know it's almost 200 plus women and girls. It's estimated every 10 seconds, somewhere in the world, a girl is being cut. So this is the urgency that we need to, when we talk about FGM. And in the UK, how we've achieved the success in terms of working with women and making sure survivors are part of the change and part of the narrative is letting them know that the government is totally against FGM. There is no room for acceptance in FGM or FGC, whatever people want to call it. And we're now seeing more activities. So in the UK, for example, what we have done is making sure FGM sits within the agenda of gender-based violence against women and girls, in terms of policy, in terms of implementation, in terms of the law, in terms of health, and in terms of education. So in the United Kingdom, there is no space you can go now without having FGM at the core of that. I believe that's what the US is doing, and I believe my colleagues that work with the Donald Trump administration just before he left was to actually make this sort of realistic for the US administration in where we sit. So I've shared with Zainabu some of the work we have done. So A Girl at a Time, obviously Sierra Leone is this country where the language around FGM has always been romanticized. Oh, it's something we do within our cultural, but it's not. And so what we've done with the UK and the Sierra Leonean community is making sure that women move away from that romanticism, with that affection, or making FGM become this thing that they're very attached to, and actually saying, this is something that has been traumatic for you, it's a form of abuse, and we begin to give women therapeutic support. So in almost every agency now where FGM is being addressed, women are more likely to receive a referral to a specialist midwife if they have health complication. And within the service itself, there is always a therapeutic service attached to that. And obviously, we will talk about the impact it has had, and if they want to bring, say, a legal charge or a criminal charge against whoever it is, because in the UK, FGM is illegal on children as well as on adults. A woman has the choice, but it's not acceptable because it's the act that's it's illegal, not the age of the woman. And I remember somebody mentioning labiaplasty. We all know through the medical profession, about 1% to 2% of communities will opt to go and have a labiaplasty. And obviously there has to be some medical issues for those women who want to have it. But even with that, within the NHS, there's now conversation about that because doctors are now being trained, not just by survivors, but by law enforcement, actually telling them what essentially FGM is and what impact it has, because it's about the do no harm. So we talk around do no harm, that medical practitioners are meant to save lives, not cause pain. So I can stop there for now, but I'm quite impressed with the work that you all are doing. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone and you're doing incredible work, but let's work together and not in silo, because this is what we realized in the early 1990s in the UK, for example. My mentor was Efwa Dokunu, who was this remarkable woman who started a conversation around FGM. And obviously before then, people thought this was an African issue. But from once we begin to lay it out for the British women, i.e. European blonde, blue eyes women, to say FGM was performed in the UK in the 1800s by a doctor known as Dr. Brown. In fact, he was known as the doctor that cuts the clitoris. And white women begin to connect. There is a lady in the US from the Midwest called Renee, and I'd love to introduce her to yourself, who wants the world to know that white women from the Christian faith in the West, in the Midwest, do perform FGM. It's no longer an African thing. We have in the Asian community, for example, the Bora Muslims are doing it. Women from Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Tunisia, Egypt. So we're now seeing across the world, communities are speaking out about FGM, and we're no longer ashamed to tell people it's wrong. We're no longer ashamed to call people within our community. You have a woman from Sierra Leone who is a catalyst to making sure that the world thinks FGM is okay. And we have to say to her, you have to stop that. It's wrong. It's leaving girls, particularly from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, where women are more likely to die during childbirth. And I'm so sorry to hear about Zainabu's sister, but this is the norm in Sierra Leone. More women are likely to die through maybe age 5, 6, 7 of heavy bleeding, so we're now making sure that we are proactive in whatever this is about. The dialogue we're having, we're telling our family. I've had to speak to several of my relatives and say, you cannot do that. Even when I send money home, I would always say to them, I hope you're not going to go do FGM. Otherwise, I'm not giving you my money. You can't go to school. Yeah.
It's a real thing, what you're saying, yeah.
For FGM. No, because they're very clever. I like the way Anea said it. Where I'm from in the northern part of Sierra Leone, in fact, the whole town is called Maboroka. And when you're not caught, you're called the Boroka. So for me, it's turning the language to something positive, to say, actually, yes, I accept that I'm a caught woman. It doesn't make me less of a woman. And I don't have to subscribe to a culture that demeans me, because within the confines of what FGM is in Sierra Leone, actually subjugate girls to further forms of abuse. And we have to call it out for what it is, because not only do we deal with FGM within the FGM space, but we're now seeing girls are more likely to be raped. They're more likely to be forced into marriage. So when we're talking about FGM, we're making sure women and girls would leave that space knowing the other links that the practice has on their life in terms of holistically. you're going to go into a marriage and having to explain to your spouse that something is wrong with you. What is he going to think about that? So men can be part of the conversation as well.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing men are
Yes,
saying,
men are,
well, I
right.
don't want this, because you were told never, ever to speak about it. And we say, well,
Right.
actually, we're going to disrupt the status quo. We're going to speak about it. The more you don't want to hear, the more we're going to talk, because it's giving women back the power and say, you have to stand up to what this is. This is essentially, it's abuse. If I were to walk down the Big Apple, for example, grab a baby from their pushchair and say, I want to touch between the baby's legs, the whole of the United States will call me a pedophile. So why are girls being cut? And it's okay. And we have to pant around what this is and be nice about it. No, we're not going to be nice anymore, because 200 plus women, 10 seconds a girl is cut. And not only is she cut, she's more likely to bleed or contract HIV and AIDS or suffer from a
Yes,
severe mental
hepatitis.
illness.
Yes.
Girls
Yes.
do not like their bodies anymore because of what is happening. So this is, for me, in the UK, the kind of language we have used, that women are coming out in drones. Everywhere we go and we talk about it, women are saying, oh my God, 20 years I couldn't speak. I saw, Alima, can you come back tomorrow and talk to us? Because you can tell my husband, because I sit within my community, though I'm from Sierra Leone, but I've grown up in the UK. So when people see me, they thought, you're a Londoner. I am a Londoner. And I can tell you exactly where you can go to get that help and that support. And we link that to sexual reproductive health, to mental illness,
Right.
Yeah.
to domestic abuse.
Yeah.
And now in the UK, we had a change in the legislation. Unlike
Yes,
the
like in
US,
New York. Yeah.
Yeah, New
if you
York, the
take
United
your
States, right.
daughter overseas for the practice, well, we did work with the US ICE team and Border Force in the US 2 years ago, because we literally were going to the airports. We're going to all these places
Wow.
that communities are more likely to travel out of the UK, taking their children, let's say to Guinea, to Sierra Leone, to Liberia,
Yes, Liberia.
saying
Yeah.
to them, once you're arrested, you will serve a 14-year prison sentence. And it's
Yes.
attached to forced marriage. We're not just talking FGM, we're now talking about trafficking of children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
trafficking.
we
Yes.
worked closely
Yes.
with the dark web. Last year, the Craigslist and the is it backroom, you call it in the US, where girls were trafficked and
Yeah.
advertised for sex work.
Sex
Well, FGM is
trafficking.
sexual
Mhm.
abuse.
And
Yes.
to piggyback on what Ali Mansour's saying, Ms. Jaffa brought this up in our preparation meetings talking about this, because she mentioned a whole arena that I didn't even think about. She talked about the documentation issue. And
Yes, so
I
I
didn't
can
even
share with
think
you.
about that. Ms. Jaffa, when Ms. Jaffa, touch on that a little bit. Then I want to also introduce, before Ms. Jaffa speaks, after Ms. Jaffa speaks, we have another guest who joined us on the phone tonight. We have Nurse Leader. She is my actual president of Sigma Theta Tau Delta Zeta chapter, a nurse leader in many multiple nursing organizations, a nurse educator here, nurse of many long time. We have Nurse Wanda Johnson. She's also a community leader and advocate, and a sister of the soil, a descendant from Sierra Leone also. And she's joined us here in the chat. She's going to talk with us too. Alimatsu, we love you. Thank you so much for that. You have opened up some other new conversation that is part of this awareness campaign for the month. Ms. Jaffa, Wanda will introduce herself after you, but talk about that. You talked about that before, about the issues with
Undocumented.
Yes, undocumented. And I never thought about that. I never thought about that.
Yeah, because my thought was, which happens is there are a lot of women that are undocumented, and not only the women, sometimes their husbands as well are undocumented. So it goes beyond the FGC, because if there is even some sort of abuse going on in the home, they're not going anywhere to report it, because they know they're not documented. That's going to open up another can of worms for them. They're going to get deported. They're going to have police coming into their homes. That's even a bigger taboo. So they just sit there and they accept it. They accept putting their girls through this, accept whatever their husband is feeding down their throat, because a lot of them are home. They're home workers or homemakers. They're not going out of the home to work. They're having children, and they're cutting their children, doing whatever the husband says because they're not documented. And their community that they're living in are closed communities. So they're not meeting other people in the country that they're living in. They're speaking
Absolutely.
their language, eating their food, and friends are just their friends within their community, not outside. So they have no one they can trust outside of the community. So it's very hard to break into that, to help people.
And I'm so glad that we're able to have this discussion roundtable. I'm glad that we have all these women on here. I hope that we have our male advocates, to start to speak up, because men have to be part of this conversation. A lot of the stigma and the reasons almost why we're doing this is kind of stems from that male pleasing background also. And so this is some of the stuff that we have to, discuss. I do want to get a chance to introduce Wanda Johnson. Wanda Johnson, please bless us with your voice and your tealness joining us this month. Thank you, Wanda Johnson. Yes, we're teal. Teal is the color for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Thank you for joining us, Wanda Johnson. Yes.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm so glad to see that we're having this conversation. Unfortunately, every has a title, and unfortunately, we still have to have a month that focuses on sexual assault. I bring you greetings from Sigma Theta Tau, the International Honor Society of Women, the Delta Zeta chapter, which is located at Lehman College. We're very proud of this chapter, where we have a membership of more than 350 and represented by more than 35 countries. And we're located in the Bronx, but we are an international community as well. This topic is something that people do not wish to speak about, but we know that it's happening. But the part that really enlightened me when you talked about the documentation, it gives us thought. Where can the woman run? Who can she report it to? Is she safer to stay quiet while she's being abused, or is she safer to get deported? So that's something else that we need to think about. And also just to stress that no means no. If people cannot give consent.
Yes, Wanda.
No means no. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, this is some of the stuff that we talk about, like being able to empower our young women and girls and all women, young or old, to say no and to say stop. And so these are just some of the things. I want to share some photos with you guys while we're here, so you all can see.
Can I just say something, Sandy? One thing.
Yes, ma'am.
From the studies I've been looking into, the younger men, you talk about men, the younger men are not in for this.
Yeah.
So they can be part of the conversation as well. I think they would support the women, the younger men.
I'm willing to say some of the older, as I shared our forum on Facebook. I've had some of my family from Sierra Leone, not Sierra Leone, from Senegal, actually reach out. My brother is much older than I. He has grown daughters, and he just wanted to send thank you to all of us ladies for talking about this and advocating for it, and even himself and family saying it has to stop. So I think a key component in this is to empower each other by talking about it. The more we talk about it, the more we're able to heal and bring forth ideas and brainstorm. As long as we're silent about it, we won't have growth.
Absolutely. And so, go ahead. As you're talking, I'm going to share some. I want you all to talk as I'm sharing some slides, and Ms. Jaffa is going to just touch on some more of this discussion. And I know, we have you guys all on a nice Thursday night to kick off this month. I want to talk to you again about the numbers so people remember. There is an increasing number of U.S. females at risk for this practice, especially young girls younger than 18 years old. This increase is due to the influx of immigrants coming from various countries around the world that practice this circumcision. This number, look at this. In 2012, about 513,000 women and girls in the United States were at risk for cutting or its consequences. So just imagine, let me also share this with you guys, this picture here, so you all can see, okay? If you all can see here, this slide, FGM, FGC is present on every continent in the world except Antarctica. Imagine that. It's present everywhere. So imagine that is happening everywhere. Everywhere, this is an issue. Another thing I'm going to share with you, and we have so many advocates around the world, if we want to achieve the worldwide eradication of this practice of cutting by 2030, and the United Nations, you know, this is their aim, right? This is their aim. We must measure FGM, FGC prevalence in every country and accelerate the global efforts to end this harmful practice. And so, Ms. Jaffa, I'll let you talk. I'm going to share another slide about some of the people I'm going to recognize who you would never know, and you didn't know in our own lovely state of New York, who are advocates for this. But I know, Ms. Jaffa, you had something to say. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, I had another thought that that I didn't bring up before, the SOAs, in Sierra Leone, the women that are doing the cutting. Now, this is their job, okay? This is how they make their money and feed their children. So if we are talking about eradicating that, that is their main key earnings for these people. So we have to consider them. We have to think of, okay, what else can they do to replace? Can they be trained? I mean, these women aren't going to schools, they're not educated. These are passed by generation to generation to learn. I mean, they take a razor blade or whatever it is they do and cut a girl, but that's their livelihood. So that's something I think we need to consider as well, because they are against stopping the cutting.
They are.
We want them on this side of the fence. So we have to say, okay, what else can they do? So we have to consider them and think about that as well. I'm just, thinking.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to share with you now about FGM, FGC. Some available resources in Charlinda. We love if you have any additional resources to please chime in. In addition to all of us here on this live, and we are all advocates, we all are working, whether education or healthcare, we just want you all to have some resources, because there's one thing to talk about a problem, but we also have to talk about how we can have a discussion, how to empower, and also solutions, and also resources. So now when we talk about all of this, what's the next for people? So if you know someone who's performed FGM or FGC on you, and you have not violated any US laws, you're not at fault. But we want you to know that there are resources available. You can call 1-800-994-9662 if you believe you're at risk for it, if you undergone it, if you have questions about it or information, in addition to watching lives like this. We want everyone to know in the United States, it's against the law to practice FGM and FGC on any girl under the age of 18. And I don't even want to say that. To practice that on any woman without their consent, it's against the law. Another thing I want to share with you is, let me see here, since we're Zooming and sharing pics and info, there's info from even, and to let you know, this is not a foreign thing. there's info on it where you go to USCIS, which is Immigration Department of Homeland. And they're also champions for advocating this. They want people to work together with them and the White House and government agencies to make sure that we're protecting our women and girls. So you can go, they have documents that people can use in their different countries and different languages to discuss the fact sheets on this practice. And I don't know if any of you have some resources that you want to share or some numbers that you want to share with anyone. Again, we're asking everyone to make sure that they're wearing teal for this month. We kicked it off today with teal just to recognize Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We have some wonderful people watching us online. We have a lot of ambassadors who are advocating about this. And there's some people, if you all may not be aware, there's an actual march that they have every October in Brooklyn. Yes, for FGM, FGC. It's started by actually Council Member Alika Ampry Samuels, who is the councilwoman, I believe, for the 41st District in Brooklyn. She and an attorney, her name is Natasha, started an actual walk a couple years ago where they gather advocates together in Brooklyn and they do a march. And there's many other advocates out here who are raising awareness on this. I will just share, if you guys want to share anything or say anything while I'm just, I will share with you some of the advocates. And it was quite surprising for me to find out the people who are really advocating on this. The Secretary General, they talked about this for the United Nations.
Yeah, it is a big thing in the United
Nations. Yeah, it's such a big discussion, and it's a big discussion now. It's not just this foreign talk. It's something that they're discussing here in New York. If any of you ladies want to share any info or okay, this is great. Dr. Corto is sharing some things that are done, when FGM, FGC is done, how much it would affect people and their health and some health problems. Some people I do want to recognize in the advocacy and fight for awareness and to open discussion on FGM and FGC. Some of the people, I was with the advisory board, I want to recognize people like Dr. Adeyinka Akinsule Smith. Dr. Yinka, who is here, is a professor here in New York City. She did a big research project on this where we, it's called the West African Women's Movement, where we were just bringing awareness to women from Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and I believe also we included women from Gambia. And we just got them to be part of a study. With this study, we were also getting clinicians and providers to use a screening tool to screen women that they see in their practice. Another person, Christelle Onu, who was a professor at John Jay, Dr. Corto Scott, we have Charlinda on here, Vina is on here, Ms. Jaffa is on here. We also have advocates like Salai Kamara. We also have advocates like Aminata Conte Bigger. We also have advocates like Professor Joanna Vergoth, advocates Cremelda Parkinson Pratt, advocate Adeline Sandy. These are just some of the people who've been advocating that I even know in my personal life and also in the professional FGM, FGC campaign movement. Advocates like Ali Matu, some of our younger generation, Adiatu Bangura, Rashida Kamara, Hawa Conte, and Fenella Cardwell. Advocates like Janice Williams. Advocates like Councilwoman Alika Ampry Samuel from the 41st District of Brooklyn. We also have Ms. Jaffa, thank you for joining us. Thank you. We love you. Thank you so much for talking about the stigma. And I'm just wrapping up with some people to also advocates like Councilmember Helen Rosenthal of New York, Assemblywoman Amy R. Paulin, who was big with advocacy and legislation here in New York. Advocates like Bernadette Sanko Kamara, advocate like Zainabu Bangura, who's big on the social media. We had a big talk on Voice of Salon about a year and a half ago about this. Advocates like Setiatu, who are here in New York City, and also myself. So again, ladies, I'm just going to wrap up our talk. If anyone wants to wrap up and say anything that our public needs to know, please share before we end
Example, I have a
our
list of
discussion.
resources. I have a list of
Yes,
resources, and if we can add
yes.
it to the um
We'll get to
YouTube, underneath the
also.
YouTube
Thank you.
video, would
Yes, and
be
Isa too.
very helpful.
Yes. Yes, so please share with us. Can you share it with us so everyone can see it? Are you able?
Yes, I had it up. Let me know if you can see.
Global
Okay.
Women, also based in Maryland. Great, 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 great.
Yeah. So far as Halimatu also discussed, therapy and being able to talk about it and talk about it with a clinician is very important. I listed here therapy for Black girls, as well as Psychology Today. If you just reach out to them, they'll be able to link you with providers, given your individual insurance. Also, here in the state of New York, if you dial 311, you are also able to get linked with a mental health clinician and therapist to speak to a licensed social worker. We have a list of various organizations and hotlines that are available to you.
Oh, she
Can
got
you
caught
hear
up.
me? Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry about that, everyone. So, African Women's Health Center is also an extremely valuable resource. I've
Yeah.
worked with them in the past. CAMBA, local here in New York. The Central African Women and Families is also a very helpful resource in New York. So, we will link these to the YouTube. The Office of Women's Health is the last hotline number that you can reach out to Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thank you. Let's keep talking about it.
Yes, and thank
Can I
you.
just say something else?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the reasons with COVID now, COVID has put things on hold and also prevented people from going to seek health care. But we also want to inform these women, especially, I mean, in New York, the Affordable Care Act is open again, and people can extend their health care, because one of the ways to take care of the complication is to be able to have health care, hopefully affordable health care, where they can be able to go to the doctor. Another thing is, because of COVID, a lot of people have not been going for regular checkup. So probably some of those babies, we don't know, maybe they were, because they were not seeing a pediatrician, so maybe there could be some issues there. But they do need access to health care as well.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. So I just want everyone, I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to just say 2 words, if you could say, for all the young girls and women around the world to hear you as an advocate. And I will start with my 2 words and say no. Just give 2 words so we can end this, and so everyone's listening. If you could say anything in 2 words, what were the 2 words you would use behind your advocacy campaign? And mine would be just to say no.
It is a difficult dialogue, but you have a safe space to talk about.
Safe space. Great, great, great. Charlinda, what would you say?
I would say speak up and speak out.
Yes. Speak up and speak out. Ms. Johnson, what would you say?
Increased awareness.
Increase awareness. Yes. Vina, what would you say?
Don't play political card.
Yes, my girl. Alimatu, in 2 words, what would you say for the world?
She's muted.
Yeah.
What I would say would be, you're not alone. And this goes for both survivors and professionals. You could always reach out for help. There's a lot more available now than, say, 30 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. And just on behalf of Ms. Jaffa, she said this and it resonated earlier. we're going to end the talk with Ms. Jaffa. I know she would say, stop, stop. And on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight on a Thursday. Thank you for kicking off this month. This is such a big month for us, just for all of us. And I thank God that we're all able to be here. Even in this pandemic, we are all able to make our impact around the world. Thank you for everyone viewing on YouTube and Facebook and Zoom. And thank you for supporting again and again. And we love you all. And for you, the young girl out there listening, we want you to be able to be empowered behind this message. Don't feel isolated. And we thank you. Everyone have a wonderful holiday and a wonderful week. And we're done. And thank you, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thanks very